Let's do this. Yeah.
Whoa! You know, I don't know if it's a coincidence, but every time I start the video stream, Silverblade shows up in the chat.
Dun, dun, dun.
Are they the same person?
He is nothing but video.
Hey, if y'all don't subscribe to the full audio version, you just missed us doing bad French translations.
Yeah,
and
talking about Three's Company.
Three's Company and Bewitched.
Yep.
And Bewitched.
Yeah.
And a little bit about Australian politics from Roger, shedding some light on today's topic.
But mostly about Three's Company.
But mostly about Three's Company and the metaphoric meanings, the deep meanings behind it. Yes, it is a hat. It is a hat Friday.
What's the Daily Tech Twitter account? Daily Tech News.
Daily Tech News, shh, because that's the character limit.
There's another one on Twitter that's Daily Tech _show.
Yeah, that's a fan created that one in the early days.
Okay.
Boo!
No, there wasn't a boo.
No, I understand.
No
That was
booing
not
required.
endorsed by Tom. That was me booing.
Please
Actually,
send
I was.
your hate mail
There
to-
was somebody outside my window, and I was booing them.
How
Right.
dare they?
There was somebody outside with a Golden State jersey on.
Yes, I said boo,
Boo!
boo,
Stephon Curry.
stink boo.
I'm wearing a 2005 Houston Astros World Series hat. That's what I'm wearing.
I've got.
In honor of the Corpus Christi man who got himself caught in an ATM.
I bought this in Florida
No?
in 2011,
No. Nice.
and it's just been sitting over there. So it looks bad on me, but
What's your hat story,
Bill's-
Shanna?
yes.
I got mine in Ginza, Tokyo last year
Oh, very nice.
at a very nice lady shop. She recommended a great ramen restaurant near there.
It's quite kawaii.
She told me I was kawaii. She was like, "Oh, kawaii," and I was like, "Oh, arigato."
Arigatou gozaimasu.
It was so cute. Freaking adorable.
You're like,
I was
oh, my
"Be
favorite
best
Hawaiian
friend.
island.
I don't know anybody. Come eat ramen." And then she ran away.
All right. Let me
Entertain you.
entertain you
Let me
with my stories of encryption.
smile.
All right. We are ready to go. You guys ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Hey.
Hey.
By the way, you can open carry a longsword in Texas now. It's legal.
What?
Just so you know, in case you were wondering. Here we go.
The Daily Tech News Show is brought to you by its global listener base, not outside organizations. To find out how you can contribute, go to dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Friday, July 14th, Bastille Day 2017. I'm Tom Merritt. Beyond the New? Patrick's not here, but that's all the French are going to get. I'm Tom Merritt. Shannon Morse alongside. How are you, Ms. Morse? Mademoiselle
I'm
Morse.
wonderful.
Madame Morse, rather, I guess.
Madame Morse. No, you can call me Miss Morse. I like that. Or Mrs. I guess it would be. Oh man, I'm married. Oh, I forgot.
Oh, no.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, good. We are going to be talking encryption today. Australia is making, they're the latest nation to make a push towards forcing encryption and math to work for law enforcement, which means Len Peralta is going to have a higher challenge again.
I'm going to try the
draw
best I
something
can. It's
go
going to
along.
be very interesting, yes.
We have another story. We have another story I think might give you some inspiration. In today's
Well,
show.
hopefully I can mash these stories together and make something happen. We'll see what happens.
I think you're going to do it. Let's check in on a few other tech things you should know about. Google has added a feature to Google Play Music called New Release Radio, which chooses new songs based on your listening history. It's their Discover Weekly. Spotify has Discover Weekly. Well, now Google Play Music has New Release Radio. The feature has been available for Samsung users actually for a while, but it's now available for everybody. And by everybody, whether you pay for Google Play Music or not, you can use the free tier of Google Play Music and still listen to this New Release Radio station.
I tried this. It was terrible.
I tried it too, and I was so excited because I'm a Google Play Music subscriber. I have been curating my playlist there and playing things for a long time, and I'm like, whereas Spotify never gets me because I never use it, this is going to work great. And it was not very good yet.
Mine was totally off. Like, the first 3 songs were great, and then everything after that, it was just like, you love rap and hip hop. And I was like, no, I really don't. Like, nothing against it, but downvotes all over the place. Sorry.
Well, maybe that's all it takes. Just takes a little downvoting at first to get it going.
I hope so.
But yeah, what encourages me the most about this is that it shows that Google is still taking Google Play Music seriously, and they're not abandoning it.
Yeah, which is great, because I use it pretty much every day while I'm concentrating on stuff at work. So I was like, good on you, keep on doing this, and hopefully if I downvote and upvote things like very constantly and consistently, it'll just figure it out.
Fingers crossed.
We'll see. So-called dark web marketplace Alphabay went offline without explanation a week ago. Thursday, the Wall Street Journal reported Canadian police seized its servers in Quebec, and that was one of Alphabay's alleged administrators, Alexandre Cazes, was found dead from an apparent suicide in a Bangkok jail cell. Alphabay was bringing in an estimated $600 to $800,000 a day. Sellers first went to Hansa, which then closed its doors to new business starting Thursday. Another alternative, Dream Market, was having issues staying online and validating logins on Thursday. There is no clear explanation for how law enforcement were able to bring down Alphabay. Ooh.
So, a lot of people are looking at, first of all, this is impressive, right? This is, a big operation, and a lot of people are very interested in how they were able to identify where those servers were, who those administrators were, because all of these dark websites use Tor, which is, if you can break through Tor, they want to know. My guess is they didn't break through Tor. They had other ways of finding it out.
Well, it is like public knowledge that there are some exit nodes on Tor that are like affiliated with agencies or governments or whatever it might be. So maybe they used one of those, but that's a very, very low percentage of the Tor exit nodes that could even possibly be used in that stance. And I feel like for a dark web server, they would probably know better.
They would know those and not use those, I would think.
Yeah, they would probably know better. So I feel like that was probably not the case in this one. But I'm extremely curious about this, especially since, the leader, he was just found dead in his jail cell from an apparent suicide. Like, I don't know. I have a lot of skepticism when it comes to things like this.
It's hard to say. If you are someone who has this much against you internationally, and your servers have been caught and you are in jail in Thailand, that is not good prospects. That could lead someone to contemplate suicide very legitimately. On the other hand, I know what you're saying, which is if you're that person and some people would rather make an example of you extrajudicially, that they could also make it look like you had committed suicide. So I don't think you could say that either way.
Right.
On the technology side of it, though, Silk Road, went away, and a lot of people wondered what was going to fill its gap, and Alphabay rose to fill its gap eventually. The fact that all of these other sites aren't filling the gap yet doesn't mean that we now have a clean dark web, does it?
No, absolutely not. There's always going to be a predecessor wherever it might end up being, if it's on the dark web or somewhere else in the tech wild. So this isn't something new. It's like an ongoing story to the dark web of what happens whenever you deal with these kind of sites, because there's always going to be an outlet for these kind of criminals to do the things that they're doing.
As long as there's a demand.
Yeah,
there's going to be someone who figures out a marketplace for it.
Yep.
In a response to U.S. Senator Ron Wyden, acting U.S. Customs and Border Protection Commissioner Kevin McAleenan clarified that customs agents may search devices at the border for any reason, no warrant necessary, but they may not search data stored solely in the cloud. So by that, I would assume it means if the data is mirrored on your device, they can look at it. But they can't make you give your Dropbox password or something. Travelers may refuse to give passwords for devices, but they may lose their device. The device can be seized in those cases. And if you're not a citizen of the United States, you may be refused the right of entry, which can be refused for any reason as well. McAleenan said the agents are searching for things like child pornography and threats to national security, which is why they have this wide latitude.
Right, of course. They're always going to use the child pornography threats to national security as the reasons for.
I mean, the threats to national security is real, and child pornography exists.
Yes.
My guess is that they weren't using this wide latitude 10, 15 years ago, and child pornography existed then too. I don't know. It seems like a loaded thing to throw out there because a lot of people go, "Ooh, well, I don't want to encourage that."
Yeah, exactly. None of us do.
Yeah.
But we also want to protect our identities and protect our privacy and security. So where is that middle ground when it falls into this? It kind of works with our main discussion story as well.
Exactly. And it is an odd case at the border where you have different rights for citizens of the United States than you have for non-citizens of the United States. And when you're at the border, you're no longer in the United States.
Right.
So should citizens have different border search rights than non-citizens is the debate. Anyway, we could go down a whole rat hole on that, which is less about technology. but this is something to know if you're crossing the U.S. border, right, and you're concerned about, an unscrupulous agent seeing your data, and you have no criminal reason to hide it. You can maybe remove data off your device and keep it in the cloud, and that's a way to feel like you're not going to get spied upon.
That's probably what I would do if I was an international citizen coming into the U.S. I would probably upload everything to the cloud in an encrypted fashion. Like, I love SpiderOak because they're all about encryption. Mm-hmm. And then I would wipe my phone data completely. If they wanted me to hand it over, that would be another thing. I would probably bring in a lawyer because I'm very much against giving people my devices, leaving them out of my hands. Mm-hmm. But I would definitely wipe the device completely and start brand new. And if they want a password to a wiped device, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, and a lot of people have recommended that if you are concerned about this, and again, we're not trying to encourage criminals, but you just may not feel comfortable exposing your data to these searches. Mm-hmm. You might want to wipe your device, keep your data in the cloud, and then put some data on there. Have a few innocent emails on there. Put a few apps on there.
Cat pictures.
Because if it's an entirely clean device, that can raise suspicions. Whereas if you have a device that looks like it's used, it just doesn't have anything interesting on it, that's more likely to not raise an eyebrow.
Yeah, and this is very important for people like journalists. Mm-hmm. It's very important for the information security friends that I have who carry with them very important secure details about companies or wherever they might be working.
Sure.
And they can't share that information with just anybody. So it's
a lot of people,
criminals that get affected by things like this. It's a lot of, legit moral people.
There was the case of the NASA contractor who mm-hmm. was worried because he is not allowed to expose his data. He needed to carry that data to South America for a project. Mm-hmm. And he got caught in a situation where the customs people wanted to see his phone, and he's like, but I'm not supposed to let you see my phone. Like, you don't have clearance. This is high level confidential information on this phone. So situations like that, you can just avoid the problem in the ways we're talking about.
Good times. Good times with customs. Microsoft launched an iOS app called Seeing Al, or is that AI?
Seeing AI, yeah.
AI. That describes pictures taken by the phone's camera to help visually impaired users. It can also read text, scan documents, and recognize people. It can also estimate distance from things and read items from apps. The app is available in Canada, India, Hong Kong, New Zealand, Singapore, and the US to start.
I used this morning. It's a really cool idea. And as far as like faces and stuff and really clear objects like my dog, it did well.
Cool.
Some other things, like I pointed it at the towel rack in my shower, and it's like, that's a red shower curtain. I'm like, no, it's not. And to be clear, that recognition, the object recognition from a picture, it says as soon as you launch it, this is in beta. Don't rely on this to navigate your world. It's not ready for that yet. We're still testing it. It's here to kind of demonstrate what's possible. And they mark it clearly beta in the app itself, but it's still pretty cool when it does work.
Oh, it's awesome. I got to see a demo of one of these being used by a visually impaired guy, and he was able to point it at things that were sitting on a table, and it would describe to him like, oh, this is a spaceship model craft. And it was just so cool that he was able to describe the world around him and not have any issues figuring it out. Of course, it is going to still mess up, like you said, since it is in beta. But I think this is one of those things that can learn over time and that can develop and really, really help people that would need it the most.
All right.
And I see you're currently trying to
I'm going
use
to try
it.
the scene. I'm going to see what it. I'm going to point it at my mixer, my keyboard, and my iPad. Let's see what it does.
I feel like that might confuse it. I wonder what it's going to do.
Oh, it didn't talk. Why? I have not had the volume up. It seems to be
talk.
indoor keyboard computer. It says. Not bad. It didn't get mixer, but that's a tough one. Yeah.
That's not bad though.
Let me see what it does with this. I don't know why I can't hear it.
It's a live demo.
Oh man, screenshot of a computer. Well, it's not a screenshot.
Oh, okay.
But it is the display, so.
Yeah.
Right.
Hello. This call is being answered.
Yeah, it spoke out loud earlier today. I don't know why. Oh, that's why. Here, I'm going to do it one more time.
Scene beta. Scene beta. Processing. A screenshot of a computer.
There we go.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So that you can just hear what it's seeing.
Yeah.
All right. A Corpus Christi, Texas man did something we've all done. He left his phone in the truck by accident. He was just doing his work. Phone's out in the truck. You know, I'm trying not to leave my phone out there either, but sometimes you just forget. Anyway, he's doing some work renovating a bank, and at some point in the course of his renovations, he crawled into one of the ATM vaults and got stuck. With no way to call out, he began shouting at people as they were withdrawing cash to no avail. Everyone thought it was a prank. They're like, there's nobody in the ATM. So he finally began writing notes and shoving them out of the receipt slot of the ATM. One note read, "Please help. I'm stuck in here and I don't have my phone. Please call my boss," and then had the phone number. After 2 hours, police came, thinking themselves it was a hoax, until they kicked in the door, freeing the man.
Oh man, I should so not laugh because
I know, poor guy.
If you got stuck in a vault, that would be so scary. I used to work at a bank and we had ATM vaults, probably similar to what he got stuck in. And those things, once they're locked for good. You have to have a way.
They're a vault. Well, you know.
So how in the world did they kick in the door? Jeez.
Well, that's the part that caught my eye too. Like, well, wait a minute, how'd the police get it? Like, obviously. There's a security there's a security feature there. If you could just kick in the door, but maybe they kicked in a different door than the vault door. I don't know. I'm curious about that part too. But it's not so much a technology story, except in the fact that it involves an ATM. But
I'm sure we'll hear plenty about ATMs in the next 2 weeks since DEF CON is coming up. So that'll be fun.
Oh, he was in the vault room. Poodle Puncher says so. He was stuck. The door locked to the room. Maybe that door isn't as secure as the actual vaults that secure the money. That's a good point.
Okay, good clarification.
Anyway, it is Hat Friday if you're watching the video version of DTNS, and in solidarity with our poor Corpus Christi worker who got himself stuck, I am wearing a Houston Astros hat, circa 2005 Houston Astros World Series appearance.
Very
so
nice.
Folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, subscribe to dailytechheadlines.com. You can also get it as a flash briefing on the Amazon Echo in the US and on the Anchor app at anchor.fm. All right. Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull announced a proposed law that would compel companies to help law enforcement agencies intercept and read encrypted messages sent by suspects. Attorney General George Brandis believes it might be possible to decode encrypted messages without building in a back door. That sounds good. The proposal would be introduced in Parliament when it reconvenes in August. So allow me, if you will, Shannon, to guide you through the rhetoric here.
Okay, I'm ready.
So a couple of facts, first of all. Australian Federal Police say that encrypted communications that are monitored by law enforcement has increased from 3% to 55% in a few years. More people using encryption. Except for the criminals, that's a good trend. We want people using encryption more often, but unfortunately the criminals are using it too. And in fact, the Australian Surveillance and Intelligence Organization says that encryption is used in 90% of its priority cases. Which kind of makes sense. You know, the people that most don't want to get caught are most likely to use encryption. So, Malcolm Turnbull says yesterday, tell me if you can disagree with any of this, Shannon. We cannot allow the internet to be used as a place for terrorists and child molesters and people who peddle child pornography and drug traffickers to hide in the dark. That sounds horrible. I don't want that either, do you?
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, the laws of mathematics are very commendable, but the only laws that apply in Australia is the law of Australia.
Can I just give him a slow clap for that one? I appreciate the attempt there.
Let me explain. His next quote that we have from him, these aren't all said in exactly the same order, but they're pretty close. I'm not a cryptographer. Oh, really? I would not have known. I'm not a cryptographer, but what we are seeking to do is to secure their assistance. They have to face up to their responsibility. They can't just, wash their hands of it and say it's got nothing to do with them. 100% agree with Malcolm Turnbull. Tech companies should not wash their hands of responsibility. They shouldn't say it has nothing to do with them. Shannon, do you think that's what's happening?
That's a tough call. That's a really tough call there.
Well, let me tell you, he's got one more quote from Malcolm Turnbull. There's a culture, particularly in the United States, crazy Americans, a very libertarian culture, which is quite anti-government in the tech sector. We need to say with one voice to Silicon Valley and its emulators, all right, you've devised these great platforms. Now you've got to help us to ensure that the rule of law prevails. He's painting a picture that Facebook, Google, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft are not cooperating, that the government comes with a reasonable request with a warrant and says we need to get this information and the tech companies are resisting. Is that what's happening?
Not entirely true. If I recall correctly from terms of services with several of the online companies that we've seen, they will hand over information if they receive a warrant.
Yeah, and in multiple countries, not just in the United States.
Multiple countries.
And Facebook is very clear about this. They even said in response to this story, we cooperate with all lawful requests that we can.
Right.
Here's what is happening, and this is what they're pushing out this fog over. There is end-to-end encryption where WhatsApp, one example, or Signal, don't hold the key to decrypt the communication. And so we've seen this play out in Brazil with WhatsApp in particular, where the court says you have to decrypt this message, and WhatsApp says, we can't. We don't hold the key to it. The customer does. That's the way it works. And the court accuses WhatsApp of not cooperating. Well, WhatsApp can't cooperate.
Right.
So we've also seen in the United States a bill constructed to say, aha, well, you're not going to be allowed to create a system where you can't cooperate. You're going to have to build in backdoors. And everybody says, well, we don't want to build backdoors into encryption. That weakens encryption for everybody, right?
Exactly.
Attorney General George Brandis of Australia says, hey, come on, guys. Well, Malcolm's a little crazy over there. He didn't say that. He said, quote, what we are proposing to do, if we can't get the voluntary cooperation we're seeking, is to extend the existing law that says to individuals, citizens, and to companies that in certain circumstances you have an obligation to assist law enforcement if it is within your power to do so. My guess is Facebook and everybody are fine with that. Well, we don't propose to require backdoors, says Attorney General Brandis, as they are sometimes called, though there is a debate, of course, about what is or is not a backdoor. If there are encryption keys, then those encryption keys have to be put at the disposal of the authorities. Now, Shannon, I'm going to say what it sounds like he might be saying here is, all we're saying is if you have the encryption keys, the law is going to force you to cooperate with law enforcement. But we're not going to put a backdoor in there. We're just going to say if you have the encryption keys, hand them over.
But he also goes on to say that there's a debate on what a backdoor actually is.
Well, yeah, that's concerning.
So why would he include that little bit of a quote there if they're not intending to include some kind of backdoor, if they're not trying to legalize backdoors in some way or shape?
Maybe we should return to Malcolm Turnbull, who says, a backdoor is typically a flaw in a software program that perhaps the developer of the software program is not aware of, and that somebody who knows about it can exploit. So we're not talking about that. We're talking about lawful access.
So they want to legalize backdoors?
Well, in this tortured logic that we're following, they're saying, oh no, a backdoor is a flaw. And a flaw is something you didn't mean to be in there. And we're not saying people have to put things in that they don't mean to, which of course would make sense because you can't legally force people to put things in that they don't mean to. So he's saying nothing. He's saying nothing at all. And it's still vague. It's still intentionally, my guess, vague what they're asking for. They're saying you have to comply with law enforcement. All the tech companies say, well, we do when we can. They're saying, we're not going to ask you to put backdoors, but we call backdoors something else. So what do they mean? And until we see the text of the law, we can't really know.
So there's a few ways that they could go about getting warranted, decrypted information off of devices. Either they would have to install something on the phones, because most of the applications that they're talking about here encrypt locally before they actually ship out the information to whoever your destined contact is going to be, or they would have to put something into the code of the application. Other than that, currently, as far as our public knowledge is, there's not a way for these companies to decrypt the information on their end. So even if they want to get all these companies on their side, like, yeah, we'll give you the information, all they can give them is the public key. And you can't do anything with a public key unless you have the private key as well. And unless you have those physical devices in hand that have those private keys on them, you can't really do anything to decrypt them as far as what we have in our technological capabilities to this day, that, you know, public knowledge knows.
So what you're saying is it's either got to be a backdoor or a keylogger.
Basically,
or
yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
They're going to like come in and hand you a warrant to take your phone away, because if they have your phone in hand, yeah, they can totally see what you've written on there, as long as they can break into your phone itself and open up the app. They can totally see what's going on there. Unless
all of that is encrypted and stored, right? In which case, and that's what Apple has been fighting to preserve.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. A lot of these other quotes talk about, hey, we've always been able to see conversations. Telephone companies have always cooperated with us on that, and tech companies need to also. And I really do believe that while there are other motivations and other things going on causing the fog of misunderstanding, I also think that Malcolm Turnbull is not lying when he says he's not a cryptographer, and he doesn't understand. I think a lot of people don't understand that the way encryption works is meant to be unbreakable.
Right.
It's not like the telephone company where they're like, hey, you know, that would be a lot of extra work to put in a tap for you. We don't want to. And they're like, well, we're going to write a law that makes you. All right, fine, we'll cooperate. No, it's not like that. It's, we have designed the software with math, and you have to have two prime numbers that factor into a large number. And then if you don't know what those prime numbers are, you can't figure out the factors of that large number because it's computationally intensive and no one can. Like, that's just the way it works. You can't put a wanted poster out for the prime factors of a large number and say they're breaking the law in Australia for being prime factors of large numbers. Turn them in.
Yeah, and eventually we will begin to see those things happen. We have seen them in the past. Quantum computing, for example, has the ability to figure out those prime numbers, break it down, reverse engineer that encryption, and be able to decrypt information. But even then, the time it takes is so long. Will the governments want to sit down and wait that long? And it's so expensive for this quantum computing technology. And as these things increase in ability for decryption, encryption also gets stronger. So we're seeing a battle. It's kind of like watching a tennis match where encrypted technologies are getting stronger and quantum computing is getting even stronger. So who wins in this situation? Yeah. I want to protect my security. I'm not a criminal. I'm not doing anything bad. I just don't want random people reading my text messages to my husband about what we're having for dinner. Like, I don't want them to know. They don't need to know. But when it comes to, of course, we have criminals on the other side. Like, how do we protect ourselves while also allowing them to find the criminals as fast as possible? Because I want them to do that too, but not at my expense.
Years ago, New York Times did a story, and it showed that members of a terrorist organization were using TrueCrypt at the time. There is no organization behind TrueCrypt. It's open source, and what organization there was has dissolved, probably because of pressure to build in backdoors. And there's plenty of math out there that you can't stop from being used to encrypt things. And if you put in backdoors into WhatsApp, most of the terrorists will just stop using WhatsApp. Now, granted, there will be some that aren't very good at being criminals who will use the things with the backdoor, and you'll be able to catch a few of those. But is that worth catching a few of those who may make other mistakes if they're making those mistakes, worth undermining the security of everyone else? Because once that backdoor can be used by the company, it can also be used by nefarious people who figure out how to get into it. And if you don't believe they can figure out how to get into it, you haven't been paying attention to every security breach at every large bank and otherwise secure company that's been happening.
It's true. I mean, look at the ransomware issues that we've been having for the past 2 months. All of those came from the NSA exploits being leaked, and then those leaks being used to develop new products that were used to create ransomware that affected companies all over the world. Those were affecting companies that didn't even shouldn't have even been attacked in the first place. So we have these issues that are happening. Like, what if a hospital gets ransomware? What if somebody dies because of that? You know, you can't create these, you can't create something behind closed doors and assume that nobody else is going to be able to get a hold of it.
And that ransomware is actually a really, really interesting example of what we're talking about. I think there's an underlying suspicion amongst politicians that these tech companies know how to decrypt this stuff. No encryption is that good. They've got a secret way somewhere that they just don't want to do. Well, you should use your secret way and show it. And the fact of the matter is, no, if that was the case, ransomware would not be a problem. They would just come out and go, oh, yeah, well, we actually do know how to break that encryption. Turns out that math is math. And when you, again, I hate to keep harping on this point, but when you multiply two prime numbers and get a large number, it's really hard to do that in reverse. It's just really hard right now until quantum computers come along, like Shannon said. And then there'll be another new way to use the quantum computers to create encryption. Like, that's just the way it works. And that's a new reality that we have to deal with, which is why I think it's causing so much consternation, because I'm not saying this because I want criminals to be protected. I'm just saying this because I want us to be protected. And I think breaking encryption leaves us more vulnerable to criminals than leaving encryption strong.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you.
Well, that's boring.
Man, it just gets me on a tangent.
I know.
Keep on going forever and talking about this stuff.
I agree.
It affects everybody.
I have fun talking to you. I'm kidding about agreement being boring. I think it's important to get people to understand this. So if you're out there and you're still skeptical about this and you're like, wait a minute, but what about this? Please email us, feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. We would love to talk about this more, not only here, but over on ThreatWire and Hack 5 as well, right?
Oh, yeah. I talk about this stuff like weekly, almost daily. So you could even tweet me at Snubs. Like, I'm more than happy to discuss this stuff with anybody who's interested in more. So it's a very touchy and passionate subject that I'm involved with.
Yeah. GPEG says they do have it because they can kill your cell phone like they did with the Note 7. Boy, did they backdoor that phone. No, they didn't. Killing the Note 7 meant you could stop it from being used. It didn't mean you could decrypt it. Those are two different things. Stopping a phone from being used is fairly easy. You can send out a signal that says, hey, we're going to change the firmware so you can't use it. That doesn't mean they could read what was on the phone.
Right.
So those are two separate things. Schnago says, my argument against backdoors is simple. If you have a single key that can unlock every back account in the country, it will be the most valuable number in the world, and there's 0% chance it'll be kept secret.
Oh, yeah.
Well put. And thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Thanks to everybody who maintains that subreddit. And thanks to everybody who participates in our chat at diamondclub.tv during the show. One last email before we're out of here. Message of the day comes from Devin, who says, hey, Tom, hope you're doing well. I've been following your podcast since the Mollywood era of Buzz Out Loud and Top 5 Days, and I wanted to write in and give you a unique perspective on how your show has impacted me. In 2012, I went through some very personal traumatic situations, and before I knew it, I was heavily debilitated by an anxiety disorder that had flared up like never before, including horrific panic attacks. I wasn't eating well, sleep was virtually non-existent for weeks. For around a month, I wasn't able to drive alone or work, and even leaving my house took courage. I also went into a milder but still very real deep depression. While all of this was happening, one of my few places of daily refuge was your podcast. It provided comfort and normalcy when it felt like the world was very unsteady. It helped me feel connected to current events without the bombardment of negativity that traditional cable news outlets can sometimes bring. I know that I'm not alone in this perspective, as many with anxiety or depression actively seek safer ways to stay engaged with the outside world. Please don't underestimate your podcast's ability to help people get through tough times. It can be much more than just a tech update to some people. After some counseling, developing coping techniques, and a time on medication, I am now better than ever. I recently drove through heavy city traffic. This situation has also given me the ability to better speak into people's lives who are going through similar issues. Thanks, and love the show, Devin.
Aww. That's going to make me cry. That's so sweet.
It's so sweet. And I asked Devin's permission. He said it was fine to use his first name and it was fine to read this because I've had anxiety attacks too, not as serious as what Devin describes, but having a touchstone, mine is my dog's, really does help you get through that. And so the fact that we may have been that for Devin is an honor to us, and it does speak to why we do this show. And why Shannon does the shows that she does in addition as well. Is we want to be a voice that is positive and constructive.
Absolutely. That's awesome. That's so good to hear.
And we want to have art that's positive and constructive and entertaining. And that's why we ask Len Peralta in on Fridays to illustrate the show. Len, what do you got?
Well, that was a great email, by the way. I just have to say, that's really great to hear. You don't get to hear that very often, so it was really incredible. But for me, as far as the art goes, I wanted to do a little mashup here of two of the main stories. The main story, of course, with Malcolm Turnbull, and then that story about that poor guy that got caught in the ATM. I couldn't let that go without doing a little bit of drawing around that. So the drawing is Malcolm Turnbull inside of an ATM passing out a note to our own Shannon Morris saying, "Please help. I'm stuck in here and I don't know how decryption works. Please call my mom." so there you go. It's I wasn't smart enough to put together a really great piece of art for the main story because it's very complicated.
I love your Wizard of Oz take on the poor guy stuck at the ATM. There. That's great.
Plus it's like a 1980s era ATM with a green screen.
Oh, it totally is. That's
terminal, stuff like that. So
those ATMs were extremely hackable back in the day.
Well, and but also very easy to get locked in, according to Malcolm Turnbull. So
true.
So this is
if
at
we
my
can
online
break
store.
that guy out of the ATM, by golly, we can break encryption, even though they're totally unrelated.
I love it. That's so great.
The big question is, do you take the note, Shannon?
I think I would, because in my heart, I like to help people. So. Yeah.
There you go.
What would you do? Would you
He doesn't
call the
understand
police?
Decryption, so I would probably take it and write, "What's your phone? Can I call you?" You have the email in there.
Let's chat about it. Right.
Let me link you to my YouTube where I explain decryption.
And he's like, "Sure, please let me out of here first."
I probably would.
Well, that's good to hear. So this is in my online store right now, lenperaltstore.com. It's at the front page. And also, if you're one of my Patreon backers, patreon.com/Len, you'll be able to see me draw some art for our own Tom Merritt this week. Drew his dogs Ray and Sawyer.
Yeah.
So check it out.
We got a possible cover of a book in the future.
That's awesome. It's very cool.
We'll see. So yeah, check that out, lenperaltastore.com, folks. And thanks everybody for being here with us. Shannon, of course, we've mentioned it a couple of times, but techthing at tekthiing.com, hack5.org. Anything else going on you want to tell people about?
Those are the biggest things I've been working on. We are down to the wire right now, getting ready for DEF CON, which happens in about a week and a half right now. So we are packing up all of our inventory. We're going to have a booth there. So if anybody out there is going to DEF CON, make sure to follow us on social networks and everything, so Darren and I can keep you informed of meetups that we plan to do or anything like that. Otherwise, I've been working on my own personal channel. So if you haven't subscribed, it's youtube.com/Shannon Morse, just like my name is spelled. And I've just been traveling and sharing videos about travel and lifestyle hacks and some motivational things that I've learned from my 30 years being on this planet. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. So it gives me kind of an outlet outside of technology to talk about my life.
Go check it out. youtube.com/Shannon Morse, M-O-R-S-E. And since so many folks liked our net neutrality history episode on Wednesday, thanks for everybody who gave us feedback about that. I made a text version freely available up on Patreon as my weekly column. Normally that column is made available to the associate producer level backers, but for this one, it's available to anyone. You can just go to patreon.com/DTNS and get it. We'll have a link in the show notes as well if you'd like a text version of the history of net neutrality. And you can share that. You're free to cut and paste it and spread it around the internet if you want. Patreon.com/DTNS. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 2030 UTC at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv. We're at facebook.com/dailytechnewsshow. And our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. Back on Monday with Ms. Veronica Belmont. Talk to you then.
This show is is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
It's funny. Undermined said, but Shannon, you won't be able to call him until he gets out because his phone is in the truck.
That's right.
Oh, poor guy.
Oh, poor guy. I love that art.
Keep his cell phone on him. Gosh.
That's good. I know. Well, you've done that, right? You've left. I panic when I do that.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God.
I've done it.
I've left it in the car. That's horrible.
The only time I didn't feel like that is when I was in Tahiti and I turned off my phone for the whole week for my honeymoon. That was like 3 years ago. I should probably.
Even then, I wouldn't want it stolen, but yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know the phone numbers of anyone outside of?
I know Eileen's phone number.
Yeah, I know
that
my
might be it.
phone number.
Because I don't know Jen's
I know my
phone
own.
number. I don't know anyone's phone. I know my own phone number. I know my dad's. I'm sure my dad can figure.
I don't even know my mom's anymore because she moved and she got a new phone number in the post iPhone or in the post phone era.
Yeah, I don't know everybody's phone number. My kids, I don't know their phone numbers.
You're on your own if you lose your phone.
Yep, you are.
Send them off with a T-shirt that says that.
I was wondering about that. Like, if you go to jail and they give you the one phone call, do you have to have somebody's phone number memorized, or can you like?
What if I just call it 1-900?
Can I just check my cell phone real quick? Would they let you do that?
Well, I mean, some could see it as a waste of a phone call, but I don't know.
Who would you call?
A 1-900 number. I could get those, and not even like the lewd ones, but just like, the fortune tellers. Like, so what do you think? Am I gonna get out of this? It's like, your future is very cloudy. All right, cloudy it is. Titles. That's a terrible segue. Jess takes a little down votes. Australia outlaws math. Wanted prime numbers. Dastardly deeds done on the dark web. Australia wants a backdoor without a backdoor. If there's an extra I in Australia, that's why it looks so weird to me. Google releases new release radio. Alphabet goes dark. Cloud is too high for U.S. Customs. All of these are silver blades.
What's the title link?
Oh, showbot.tv. SHOWBOT.tv.
Maybe
Good
the
times
Australia. Oh, maybe not.
Hmm?
I was going to say maybe the Australia with an extra I was because it's a Five Eyes country.
Nah. He's trying to put five eyes into spelling Australia.
Yeah. Lols.
Seeing AI leads to blind.
I kind of like the case of Australia versus math.
I like that too. That's a good one.
It's a very what was that kids teen or young adult series when I was a kid? Encyclopedia
Brown.
Yeah. And the case of Australia versus the math.
I like that one. That's my fave. I'm gonna upload it.
Any others that catch your eye, Roger?
Not really.
All right.
We decrypt in the land down under.
We decrypt in the land down under.
We decrypt in the
Oh,
land
wait.
down
This is
under.
actually pretty good. Crocodile done decryption.
Oh.
And there's also
Now,
backdoors.
this is a prime number.
No, backdoors Australian for internet.
Backdoors Australian for internet. Oh, poor Australia.
Poor Aussies.
They're not poor. They do.
No, I just mean
GDP.
this is the kind of thing that gives them a bad rap.
Well, there's plenty of things that gives them a bad rap.
Oh, I know. I'm not saying it's the only thing. I'm just sympathizing. If I were Australia right now, I would not love this story. I'm just saying.
Hey, by the way, here's a little thing. I don't know if you knew this or not. You know the show, the movie Finding Nemo takes place in Australia.
Right.
There's like a little thing. The guy they're looking for is named P. Sherman.
Okay.
There's P. Sherman. That's where he's being held, where Nemo is being held. The reason why it's P. Sherman is because there were a lot of Filipinos working on that production.
Oh.
And that's how they said fisherman.
No kidding.
Oh.
P. Sherman. Yeah, because the F becomes a P a lot of times.
Mm-hmm. P. Sherman.
Yeah, like cafe instead of cafe.
Wait, like they're working on the movie?
I think they were working around in wherever they were they were at. There were a lot of Filipinos working within that production, and they would pronounce fisherman as P-sherman. P-sherman. P-sherman, which is
Filipino.
why. Yeah. It's a little piece of trivia that I have. Filipino trivia.
Pinoy wisdom.
Little Pinoy wisdom. That's the name of my cover band, actually. Pinoy wisdom. They're opening up for A Terrible Cherry this weekend.
And by cover band, he means he just does whatever hot karaoke hits are popular in the Philippines this week.
Yeah, the Tagalog songs. That's all.
Tagalog.
Tagalog songs.
You can get away with saying it that way.
Right.
And next up, San Kapupunta.
Free balls.
Sayo.
Hello for everyone.
Hello.
You know what? It depends on who makes it, because that stuff, it can be amazing or just gross.
Yeah, right.
It's like these
Hello.
beans haven't even been cooked yet, and you stick them in here. Really?
Peanut bit by your love.
And now Debbie Gibson.
Didn't go on, but not forgotten.
You know, I didn't realize this, but I was reading somewhere like they're like Filipino entertainers are huge on cruise ships.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
like they make up a huge percentage of the entertainers aboard cruise ships because I don't know, maybe they work super cheap and they work long hours and they're good at it.
That sounds about right.
Well, and Eileen's dad is a nuclear engineer. He does AutoCAD designing of like cooling systems.
But he also kills at karaoke.
But he also kills at karaoke. No, but he got a job that makes him go to like Las Vegas and Reno, and we're like, did you really get a job, or you just wanted to go to all the casinos?
No, really. It's true.
Oh yeah, I'm at work.
You know, and it's funny because it's weird you do that, Len, because they have like, you know, really obvious accents where they just talk to you, but as soon as they start singing, it either disappears or something happens.
Oh yeah.
Like, oh, what happened? What happened to your voice?
I remember thinking like all these bands from England in the 80s. I'm like, why don't they sound
More
English?
British?
Do accents go away when people sing? And I was like, no, they're just trying to sound American because that way they'd have a better chance of getting on the radio.
Well, you know, there's a debate on that, whether or not that's true, because some say it's subconscious because so
It
much
might be,
music
yeah.
that people tend to. But other people have said that certain words are actually easier to enunciate when you're singing.
That might be true, but I just know that these days there's a lot more people that sound English when they sing than there used to be because it's not as big of a deal.
Well, it depends. Like I listened to a lot of new wave when I was a kid, so Depeche Mode, Erasure, they all sounded British to me.
Sure. Well, yeah. Okay. I
Smiths.
think you're proving my point. More niche bands that didn't worry about radio play were more likely to sound British.
Yeah,
Right.
but Depeche Mode got huge rotation, and they are more popular in the U.S. than they were in Britain.
But that's not my point. My point was Depeche Mode didn't start out with like, how do we get on the radio, right?
They didn't really hit it until
The late 80s.
yeah, with Violator. Enjoy the Silence was their first real breakout hit, I would say, unless
Yeah.
you want to count.
I don't consider them a band that was trying to be radio friendly. They got popular.
No, they are popular on college radio. We played them a lot.
Yeah,
They
totally.
were popular. They were popular all over. I normally go with the popularity of how quickly a song ends up as being a soundtrack in the TV show or a movie.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like an example of a pop star who has a thick English accent is Lily Allen. I mean, she sounds
British.
well, and I don't even know exactly which English accent is appropriate to identify her, but yeah. And
It still freaks me out when I hear
couple
actors who I
others.
think are American have the British accent, like Tom Holland, right?
Oh, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Like, what? That dude is British? What? or Rick from Walking Dead. British.
Yeah.
Andrew Lincoln.
Yeah, he's British, isn't he?
Yes. It's like,
Zoe
what?
Briggs Bacon in our chat room says
Actually-
everyone sounds English when they sing. Therefore, I don't have an accent.
What I noticed is the reverse. For example, Wesley from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Like he's in the show, he's British, but he's an American. But he went to Oxford, and I guess he just picked up the accent as he went along. But also like Spike, he's from Modesto. Ha! That's the only reason I know him, not personally. But
I was gonna say, did you hang out when you guys were?
It's weird because some do really well, but other ones like who's the guy from House? The guy who plays.
Hugh Laurie.
Yeah,
He does an American accent, but it's kind of weird when you listen to it because it's almost too neutral.
Right.
Well, yeah, and the guy who played Journeyman on that short-lived show, and then he was on Grey's Anatomy for a lot longer. When he was on Journeyman, I was like, where is his accent from? Because they were supposedly in San Francisco, but he sounded kind of Boston, but kind of Minnesota, and it's because he was English. And then by the time he got to Grey's Anatomy, I think he had smoothed it out a little bit.
Just pick the region. You're from here.
Well, I think it's like when we do English accents in America, a lot of times people from England will go like, okay, there were 6 different accents in what you just did. There was Cockney and Northumberland and Scottish.
Hello, my idea.
Yeah.
Now it just sounds like you're not wanting to swallow something you're eating.
Hello, I am good. No. By the way, accents, have you guys watched the new Gong Show at all yet?
Oh, right. I saw you tweeting about that.
Yes.
Wait, so this is a new Gong Show? Because there was a reboot in the 90s.
No, this is a new Gong Show on ABC, rebooted by Will Arnett. He's the executive producer. So the host of the show is a guy by the name of Tommy Maitland, but he is not really... He's British, right? But it's not really a real guy. It's sort of like a Tony Clifton sort of thing. I don't want to give it away because it's out there if you check on the web who he is. But he's wearing makeup. He looks really, really like a different guy, but he looks a little bit off. But he's doing this incredible British accent, like spot on British accent, and you would not even know who that actor was if someone didn't tell you. It's really, really well done.
And that actor is Len Peralta.
It is. That's my side job. You got me. What the heck?
It's just like, if you could do a really good, like, just standard BBC English accent and then just drop in some, like, Tagalog lingo slang, I guess you go through. I think it would be hilarious.
Well, what I'll say about this Gong Show, the actor who's playing, I was like, there's something not right with this guy. Like when you look at him, it's like he looks fake. Like
his 3 arms or something.
No, his face he's definitely wearing makeup. He's in disguise. So I'm like, well, what's going on with this guy? So when I finally find out who the actor was, I was like, oh, so it's kind of neat to watch the show looking for this actor within this character. It's really cool because he masks it with this incredible British accent, and it's pretty fantastic. It actually makes the show the show is pretty funny anyway, but it's really fun to watch. So if you get a chance, go to Hulu or whatever, watch the Gong Show, watch the new one on ABC, and see if you can figure out, without going to the web, see if you can figure out who that actor is.
Well, I have to go to the web because I don't know the show you're talking about. So
it's called the Gong Show. It's on ABC.
The Gong Show on ABC. Some nights at some time.
Yeah, it's weird.
Something happens.
Check local listings for showtimes.
Yeah. Well, it's on demand. I mean, I was like, oh, good, it's on Hulu. It's
funny though, like nobody knows when stuff's on.
Yeah,
anymore.
I know.
Unless it's Game of Thrones or something huge that everybody cares about. Like,
what is this Game of Thrones you're talking about?
Oh, it's a tabletop game.
Oh, I haven't heard about it. Is it good?
Yeah, it's really good.
I haven't
Everyone plays it exactly the same time on Sunday nights.
Hold on. So I can find.
Are you looking it up now?
Well, I'm trying to find a clip from the Gong Show. All I get are interviews.
Oh.
Are we boring you, Shannon?
No, I'm trying to figure out some stuff with Facebook.
Oh boy.
Facebook.
That's a whole case of worms.
It's work related, I promise.
I don't have to explain.
He kind of resembles that guy. What's his name? Not Rick Moranis. Who's that guy from the Great White North on SCTV?
Dave Thomas.
Rick Moranis was the other guy.
Yeah, Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas found.
No, I'm not thinking that guy. I'm thinking of the on SNL he did Gromley? You know, the guy with the
Ed Grimley?
Ed Grimley.
Yeah, Martin Short.
Martin Short, that's it. Remember when he did that character, that talk show character, Glick?
Jiminy, yeah, right.
No.
Yeah. But
We watched
this
too
looks,
much TV shit.
he looks a lot this character, this Tommy Maitland looks a lot like Benny Hill, sort of.
Oh, that's a bad visage. Like
As
I was mentioning an episode of Benny Hill to my wife, and I had to go to YouTube to show her, and then I realized how bad it was. How bad that show was. How incredibly sexist and blatantly racist that
it's
show
not a
is.
good show. It's just the funny parts are when he's chasing people around to that music. That's the only funny part.
Well, that's the iconic part. That's the stuff that everyone remembers. I remember there was an episode where Benny Hill portrayed Babe Baracus from the A-Team. They did like a little A-Team skit. It was really bad.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Like all the way with the,
By the way, for Hat Friday, I was this close to putting on the Spider-Man thing, but I didn't think I could draw with it.
Oh, that would have been great.
It would have been really difficult.
Yeah, but people would have only seen the upper half. It needs the full.
I know. I would have had to get in the suit, right?
You gotta soak it in.
Eric on Twitter just now wrote high primes and misdemeanors.
So what are we going with then?
Oh no, it's already
case
posted.
okay.
We went with the case of Australia versus the math. Versus math, not the math. Although maybe that should versus the math.
That kind of funny too.
It's funny. It is so funny.
Hey, here's another trivia question. Did you know that Mario and Luigi had a dad?
What?
Well, I would assume
Wait,
so.
like
They're
the video
brothers.
game or the cartoon?
Well, he's in the canon of Mario.
That's a pretty big canon to fit everyone in.
But he's only seen. I mean, if you look up Mario's parents, it actually creates more questions than answers about how Mario was born. But his name is Papa Mario, which is kind of weird.
Do you have a long form birth certificate on Papa Mario?
You have to, yeah.
So wait, what I don't understand is the world they inhabit the world of the Peach Kingdom, or did they magically get there through the plumbing?
Right.
I think they are from.
Because
are they from
how
an
did they get there in the
alternate
movie?
Italy?
Well,
Is the movie canon?
No, I'm going.
I think it is.
I'm going with the kids show with Captain Lou Albano.
Right.
As Mario, and they were like ostensibly in New York, and they would jump in, and they would be in the Peach Kingdom.
Yeah. No, I think they were real world plumbers, but they had a dad named Papa. Why Papa Mario? Why wouldn't his name be like Giuseppe?
Well, it's like Mario Senior.
Or like Papa Murphy's or Papa John's.
Papa John.
Papa John's.
Papa
John's in the house.
Take this plunger and bake it, and then plunge out your toilet.
Why did he have I guess he's a plumber.
He's a plumber. They deal with. Listen, those sewer pipes aren't clean. I'm amazed their outfits stay as clean as they do.
Where my brain went was like, they're horrible stereotypes. What kind of part of the stereotype involves Italians carrying plungers?
Do you remember just regular Mario Brothers?
Oh,
yes.
That game, I used to play a knockoff called Toy Bazaar on the Commodore 64. I loved it.
Oh, yeah.
That's when you could do stuff like that and people wouldn't go ape crazy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, ladies and gents and others, thank you for joining us. We will be back not tomorrow, Monday.
Get ready for the weekend, man. Get ready for the weekend.
Fin de semana.